Hi, and welcome to today's panel discussion here at UC Partner Summit 2022. Today, we're going to be digging into some of the recent changes around the Microsoft CSP program, and that is the Microsoft's new commerce experience. So I'm your host, Scott Riley, and joining me today, I've got the fantastic Michael Frisby, who's the MD over at Fusion, and I've also got Sarah Lambert-Gibbs, who's the Supply Chain Services Lead at Digital Space. Well, thanks, guys, for joining me. It's fantastic to see you here today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, I think we've got a good one here. This is a really interesting topic. So look, we've lined up a few questions that we think the channel really want to know. So let's dig in. So firstly, I'd love to know from you, Sarah, what have been your own challenges with the new implementation of new commerce experience?
Sure. So I think the kind of uncertainty with date changing perhaps and the initial, it's going to start here, it's going to end here, we're going to extend it, I can completely appreciate where they're coming from, but in terms of, pricing updates in feeds and getting customer quotes out and just giving customers the correct information at the right time. We were just discussing the fact that there are more changes out today. So, I suppose it's just the trust that the information we're giving our customers is correct. It's very live. It's very quick to be updated. So yeah, I suppose it's just understanding it in a really personable way that we can deliver it to our end users.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. So, Michael, we heard about this, I guess, really, we heard about this more publicly in October last year. But it seemed like a lot of the information was really kind of delayed in getting out to the partner community and even to the distributors for then, to help the partners speak to the customers. What's been your experience so far?
So Microsoft's transition to NCE has actually been ongoing for about 4 years now. And it started off with Azure Plan back in 2019. And so this has been a long-term journey for Microsoft. And as part of some early adopter programs, we were working with Microsoft and we had visibility, knew these things were coming. But I 100% agree with Sarah about just how dynamic this situation has been with the implementation of NCE per seat. With Azure, we had ultimately we ended with a 3+ year window to transition all of our Azure business across from legacy CSP into new commerce experience, and we've just not had that with NCE per seat. It's felt incredibly rushed. As Sarah said, Microsoft keep chopping and changing dates. We just literally overnight had a policy change, which as a channel we've been asking for. But then they give us 24 hours notice to implement it. So I think there's been that lack of communication and lack of time for the channel to get ready, given the dynamic nature of some of the announcements and changes from Microsoft. Things like when they introduced the grace period. Again, they didn't tell anybody how they were implementing the grace period. And that just creates extra costs, extra time, and confusion for everybody involved as to what the actual current and latest and greatest and true information is around NCE.
No, I think that's fair, and there's been so many challenges that have come along, and I saw exactly the same thing that you're talking about there, Michael. On the 28th of February, of course, everyone's rushing to make those changes and move everything across into new commerce experience because I presume everyone wanted to maximize, the current month and then chop everything across to new commerce experience. And then, of course, Partner Center or the APIs at Microsoft couldn't cope with all the changes, and so last minute it's all pushed back another month. But I can imagine there's a huge amount of partners out there in the channel who'd already, got all the billing invoices ready for the first, all updated, ready to go on the 1st of March, and suddenly, whoa, put the brakes back on. It's all been delayed. Well, whilst we're digging into challenges, that is the next question, actually. So we want to understand what are the major challenges that the channel's facing. Sarah, what have you seen so far? We've covered a good couple already, but what else are you seeing as the major challenges?
I think, to be honest, it's the trust. I think you sell licensing, as a commodity product, really, isn't it? Microsoft is a big beast. We all like using it. It's just, I suppose reiterating kind of what we've already said, it's the communication, it's the relationship between customers, it's the, we had a really big push at Digital Space to try and, get some really good content out to our customers to inform them what was going on and, have a really good roadmap. And it's the internal resource as well. Our marketing had done a lot of work, our billing departments, our reporting, and for those dates to then change, it's really frustrating because you feel like you're getting your ducks in a row, and actually, like you say, overnight to literally come into an email of, you've now got 15 days longer. It's, but it is what it is. You can only do so much. Our account manager through our indirect distributor has been fantastic, and I appreciate they've gone through a lot, because it's really just from Microsoft to the indirects to the directs, then through us to end customers, isn't it? So it's a little bit of a churn of information, and who knows what first. It's just trying to make the messages really relatable, because we have customers that don't really care to an extent what's included. They know they need their Outlook. They know that, it's different levels of experience. We've got some customers who are complete in-house DevOps departments who understand it really well, and the last thing they want is me as a sales specialist on the phone saying, oh, actually it's not happening today, it's happening tomorrow, and actually that 72-hour window is now 7-day window. Do you want to make any more changes quickly? It's headache that they don't need in their day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Michael, I don't know if you agree with this, but it feels like it's really kind of being forced upon us, really quite quickly. I think you said, the timescale seemed a lot shorter already, but the channel, the feedback I've seen is people just feel really railroaded into new commerce experience. And there's been a lot of pushback I've seen in partner discussion forums and feeding back to Microsoft, to say, this isn't really where certainly a lot of the agile, MSPs want to be. What other sort of challenges are you seeing, and what's the sentiment and feedback that you're seeing, with your clients?
I think you're definitely right about heated conversations there. I've been involved in a number of roundtables with people from Microsoft at Core, and there were some very heated sessions around some of the policy changes that have come out. And I think the fact that we all had the Microsoft 365 price rise implementation in the middle of this transition to NCE per seat is definitely one of the things that complicated it. And I think, as Sarah was saying, it touches every part of your business in terms of the changes you have to make, whether it is the way you bill out, the provisioning pieces, the rules you need around your credit control and change control on subscriptions, the training you have to deliver out into your sales teams, the marketing teams, the service teams. It's just been an absolute massive piece of work. And I guess the biggest frustration for me is we've all focused on how we buy from Microsoft, which is what it really is. It's just the rules that Microsoft define for how we purchase from them, rather than being able to talk to customers around what their problems are, what their challenges are, and how the different parts of the Microsoft cloud can actually help them achieve their goals. And so I think that's been the biggest frustration for me. We've all been focused on this effectively operational change of how we buy from Microsoft, rather than helping customers grow their business and solve the problems that they've got.
I think that's absolutely right. And the next question we had here was to talk about the long-term contracts. But let me just ask you, I think, for me, it felt a little bit tone deaf in the backdrop of a global pandemic where, customers' businesses have changed dramatically, where, maybe some have grown, but an awful lot have had to shrink back and reduce. And Microsoft have asked, of us as the partner community to go to our clients and say, hey, what we need you to do now is to commit to long-term contracts, 1, 2, and 3 year ideally, but at least 1 year contracts when it comes to your spend. How have you found, sort of mitigating that with the clients and having those conversations? Has it been difficult to say, hey, look, we're going to have to lock you in now and make a fixed commitment for the next 12 months?
So I think from talking with resellers and through them with their customers, no customer has liked losing the flexibility that we've historically had with legacy CSP. Now, to be fair to Microsoft on this, the channel as a whole were using loopholes in how Microsoft had implemented legacy CSP, and the fact that the previous commerce platform didn't strictly enforce the rules that we were all supposed to be working with, that's been part of the problem. With New Commerce Experience platform, they are strictly enforcing the rules. But when you bought a subscription from Microsoft, it was always a 12-month subscription. We just, as the channel, had technically the ability to cancel that whenever we wanted, and Microsoft would just pro-rata charges for the period the subscription had been live. But that was actually but that's using a loophole in the system. So Microsoft haven't actually changed their rules that much by moving to New Commerce Experience. What they're doing is enforcing, for the large part, the existing rules that they've had. So not being able to reduce quantities is a big issue. We have quite a few partners who work in the hospitality space, and for them, obviously, the last 2 years has been a real turmoil within their business. And so what we're seeing, so some of the partners we have in hospitality, they've moved most of their customers to monthly. And with NCE, we have now got this formal monthly option available. It does come with a 20% price difference versus committing to an annual subscription. But that, in many respects, lines up with what you see with other SaaS providers. You go online, you want to buy a service month to month. You do pay a premium compared to committing to it for a year or committing to it for 3 years. So I think the pricing model and the fact we now have a formal monthly agreement is actually new capability, and it forces you to act, from some respects, forces you as a partner to have that deep conversation with your customer to truly understand what they need. So for us, we see it as an opportunity to go and talk to your customer in more depth and make sure you're right sizing the solution for them, as opposed to just being able to, well, I can provision it and do whatever I like with it because the system never enforced the rules.
No, and you know what, thank you for reminding the audience of that, actually, because it is an important thing to understand, is that firstly, I don't think any of us would say that the subscriptions are not of good value. When we think about things like the business premium SKU, there's fantastic value in there, even with the price increase that's happened. But we've had, what is it now, maybe 6 good years of having this flexibility to be able to just move licenses up and down over the course of a subscription, and it's been really nice. When we look at other products, we know it's a 1 year minimum commitment, but we've just grown so used to having that flexibility with Microsoft. I'd love to ask Sarah. We've seen people find interesting ways to kind of account for these longer term contracts. Michael already said there about hospitality, where they've just moved everybody to kind of monthly and taken the hit. I've seen some organizations commit, maybe if a client has 100 licenses, 90 of those will go on a 1 year subscription at the fixed term, and then maybe they'll just take the other 10 on the monthly, and that provides that flexibility. Have you had any conversations like this with your clients?
Yeah, we have actually. And upon the deeper dive and the discovery, I would completely agree with Michael that there has actually been a lot of very lazy selling around CSP, and actually you've completely lost the optimization, the consultative approach, and understanding your customer's workload. Looking at both the Azure and the 365, Azure, I think it's honed in on a lot more that you should make sure your uptime is your uptime, and you're switching off what you don't need. But actually 365 licensing is quite taken for granted. You buy this big hefty SKU, it's going to cover you for everything. Do they need covering for everything? And I think the conversations we've been having is exactly that. Can we drop some of them down to an E1? Do you want to do your monthly commit on your E1s because you've got, do you have project engineers coming in? Do you want to keep a pool of 5 E3s because they need the compatibility on the monthly and then lock in? So yeah, I think it's been as frustrating as it's been, and we have been between a little bit of a rock and a hard place of kind of don't shoot the messenger on this one, because it is a relay of information. I think it has helped us in some really personable conversations with our customers, and I think it's a level of detail that they didn't appreciate that they needed to go into. Because you look at, it's just a Microsoft license, really, can we talk about it and go into like that much detail? But until you realize, how many applications are included and the utilization of it, and, going back to, COVID and everybody working from home, taking Teams for granted and the cooling plans and that sort of stuff, it's been really great to go into the levels of detail in a more granular level, to be able to choose the right package for them. Ironically, we do have some customers as well who would have loved to have gone on the 3-year. Obviously, it's been heavily talked about, but not actually, So again, it's the interpretation of, you can Google things online and you can look things up, but actually, what we are told directly that you can and can't do today is a little bit different than what you can find online sometimes.
No, and I think you've both raised a really excellent point, which is whilst this was maybe not something that the channel wanted was to go and have those sticky conversations about 1 year lock-ins because we've had this monthly flexibility. It is a great opportunity to say, what are you using 365 for? What other third-party products are you using that maybe are covered inside what you have inside the 365 SKU? So maybe people are using things like Asana or Rike, or they're using Slack, for example, when we know there's great tools inside 365 that can do that. And again, I always think about that business premium SKU because it's got so many things that just keep getting added into it now with Defender for Business and web content filtering and email filtering. It's a great opportunity to look at other products that they might be paying for and say, how can we consolidate inside the Microsoft stack and save some money somewhere else if we're going to have these longer term 1 year commitments? Well, okay, let me ask the most contentious question that I've seen that we've got for you today, but also one that I have heard from the partner community, and that is, does anyone think that this is actually just a way to kind of cut partners out of the equation and to get the customers to transact with Microsoft? And let me just stage that briefly because I have had some conversations with other partners who've said, you know what? This is all just too difficult. We don't make enough margin or hardly any margin on the licenses anyway. And now there's the risk of these 1 year lock-ins. If the client goes into administration or gets acquired or whatever, it's our business that's stuck with this relationship with the distributor at Microsoft to pay for this 1 year subscription. There's no coverage for me. I'm going to have to pay for that. And the margin on it just isn't worth it, and the vendor rebates just aren't worth it. I'm going to get out, and I've seen partners advise their clients to buy directly from Microsoft instead of buying from them anymore because they'll get the same pricing essentially by buying direct on a credit card. Sarah, if I can come to you first, what do you think there's anything here that Microsoft are trying to push smaller partners out of the way?
Yes and no, and I don't know whether it's kind of by hook or by crook, if that's the right answer. I think I completely agree with you. Systems, implementation, people, cost companies money. And, I went back to on one of the earlier points is to be within an organization where resource has to really quickly change processes because Microsoft bring a price increase in later or change dates to align enough people has been really difficult. And I have friends with smaller IT managed service companies that actually their whole business is actually around the Microsoft offering. So, in terms of your managed service piece, is it relevant if you don't sell them the license or don't look after their Azure to then be able to offer that service? It's, I don't think there's a right or wrong, and I don't think there's a defined. If you look at customers' business plans, resellers' business plans, for us personally, we've got 2 data centers and we utilize a lot of SPLA licensing. We're very much a Microsoft house. So for us, I think it's really important to show our credentials, in terms of being, gold partner, silver competencies. We abide and we follow a lot of rules to be able to certify ourselves and, to put our head above the parapet and go, this year, we've managed to secure our, 5 gold competencies. And I think it's very much a conversational aspect to have with your customers to be able to prove your worth to an extent. And I think it is really hard for the smaller customers and for us, do I have kind of resource at my fingertips to take away from billing when we've got however many hundred other products that we sell and, they're serving customers and actually go, really sorry, that price increase didn't come in last night. I can't say I've been the most favorite person in the company over the last couple of weeks. That's for sure. I think everybody sees my subject title of Microsoft changes and goes, oh my God, what now? So, yeah. Yes and no. It's probably a very on the fence answer, but rhyme or reasons 2 and 4. Actually, do you let bigger partners get bigger? Do they then care as much? I think it's hard. A lot of smaller companies that have less spend, that don't make margin on Microsoft licensing, as you say, it's a support wrap. For me, when I come from distribution, and it was never a case of selling Microsoft individually. How do you back up? What's your security? It was a bigger picture of the solution sell. We were always trained that you should never sell Microsoft as a standalone, because there's the elements that you need to, going back to that consultative conversation, there's elements that the customer, just through lack of knowledge, wouldn't understand, and it's for you to take them on that journey. So hopefully it won't make customers, resellers, go out of business. It might make them look differently at their offering and how they portray that offering. But completely agree. You can go online and buy what you want, but buying what you want might be not necessarily what's good for your business, or you don't then have the support, which I think a lot of people don't appreciate with end users, is that, if you go into PC World or something and buy an OEM boxed product, what happens when that goes wrong? You're going to have to pay, an IT man, a local company, whatever support to be able to help you with that. And actually the value add of your reseller that you're then going through, as a commodity product, or you don't think you'll ever need them, what happens when you've just deleted that really important email that actually you need help getting back quite quickly?
I think you've absolutely nailed it with two really, really great points there, Sarah. I mean, we always say, whenever I engage with partners and chat to them, you don't make money on Microsoft licensing. You make money on your service wrap that you wrap around it, and then the ancillary products that go with it. That's where you make your money. And I can understand some of those partners have said, look, we're just not going to do the licensing. We're going to wrap around the service, and keep doing that. And interestingly, you mentioned around that competency and that status, gold and silver partner status. Now, we've seen it this week, just as the dust on new commerce experience has settled, that is changing as well. And the new partner status accreditations, these new provider statuses, are starting to look a lot more robust around implementation and growth of new clients. Michael, do you think any of this is pushing those smaller partners out? If I just frame that question to you, do you think any of this is deliberate from Microsoft to move away from smaller partners and just work with a subset of larger organizations?
I think from my perspective, I definitely do not think Microsoft is trying to drive more direct business. With the level of complexity and capability in the cloud products today, customers need a partner to help them unlock that value that sits within inside those services. So Microsoft absolutely wants partners to be involved in those transactions. I think in terms of the makeup of the channel, in terms of the phrase "go big, go niche, or go home" comes to mind with me. You either, and particularly when you think about the new Microsoft Cloud Partner Program, which was announced a couple of days ago as well, as you say, the bar's been massively raised to get any of those 6 solution partner statuses. It's significantly higher than gold status or advanced specializations are today. So Microsoft's certainly raising the bar. And so I think they want partners to be good and focus on what they do. And as you both said, it's about what's the service wrap that the reseller or the MSP is providing to their customer that matters. And Microsoft themselves has been saying for years, you're not going to make your money by selling Microsoft software. It's the socket around which you're going to wrap your other services, whether it's third-party AV, email security, password management, third-party MFA solutions, and obviously your support and service wraps. And so I don't think Microsoft is trying to disintermediate the channel at all, but I do think they want the channel partners to specialize and have the skills and expertise that they need to deliver a great experience for customers. And what Microsoft is around is driving consumption and usage of the services. And so they want the channel partners who are doing that to have those skills. And I don't think, gone are the days of just being a generalist where you could try and do a bit of Azure here and a bit of Dynamics there and a bit of Microsoft 365. I think partners absolutely have to choose now, what is your area of specialization? What value are you providing into your customers? and then look, and Microsoft again for years has been talking about this partner to partner motion, and find a partner. If you're good at Microsoft 365, work with somebody complementary who's really good at Dynamics, or somebody who's really good at the Azure piece. Because for the smaller partners, I think you have to specialize, and say go niche piece and really go deep on that particular area of the solution you're good at, and work with somebody of an equal size or similar size who's good in a different area of that solution stack. And it's only the very big partners with hundreds of employees who are going to be able to go deep across all of those new 6 solution areas that Microsoft are changing the MPN program into.
I think you've absolutely nailed it. I think, specialization is really important. And when you look at these new solution competencies, I think they're called, if I've got the terminology right, from Microsoft, where they're breaking things down for the partner portal into 6 different competencies. And the old kind of, specializations that, fall in under those now, but it's kind of broadly into 6 categories now. They're really trying to say to their partners, look, this is where you should be specializing. This is, if this is your type of customer, specialize here. And of course, use the partner network. And I love what you say, you can't be fantastic at 365, maybe modern workplace, and be a dynamics expert. I mean, if you have a huge organization, but if you're one of these agile MSPs, you're more likely to just fit very nicely into one of those categories, and then you should partner, right? And the partner community is incredibly friendly, as I've seen from lots of the get-togethers that we have. It's not like a lot of other industries, I don't think, where people tend to rival and fight over the customers. And I mean, maybe that does happen somewhere, but I've genuinely found that the partner community in tech and the channel here is so supportive of collaborating and working on the same customer but in different product sets, and it works really well. Well, look, the last question I've got for you, and thanks so much for everything you've shared so far, but the last question is about the incentives that partners get, because of course this is now impacted by not just the new commerce experience, but more, I guess, the new partner process and the new competencies. Sarah, have you had much chance to see what's happening with the new partner program and how that's going to impact incentives and earnings for Digital Space, over the next 12 months?
To be fair, I have had a very brief overview of it to date. Obviously, one of the biggest changes is getting rid of the co-op funding. It's going to go back to the 100%. So I suppose it's just managing from that point of view. We're going to have someone on the old CSP 60/40, and then looking at the not-for-profit and the education, which hasn't been moved over. So I suppose I'm very lucky. I've got a great chap, Julian Broughton, who looks after that partner centre kind of back end side for us, which is really important, because when you're looking at how to utilise the rebates and incentives on low margin products, almost become a little bit more important, don't they? Because if you're not making much on the front end, then it's making sure that you're aware of what can be achieved and what incentives are running, and then it goes into topics we've already covered in terms of your specialist areas, and if you only do one area, what are you likely to have more of an uplift in than others?
No, I think that's right. And it can be so hard just to keep on top of what incentives are running at the moment, what programs are running on a quarterly basis. Michael, have you got any advice for the channel on good ways to keep on top of those? I mean, Partner Centre is obviously a good resource, but are there any other good resources so partners can make sure that they are maximising any incentives that they're getting?
I think for me, this is an area where indirect providers play a huge amount of value for their resellers and the community they're working with. Within Fusion, that's an area we spend a huge amount of time making sure we understand all of the incentive programs in detail. Our platform is architected to pass through a significant volume of certainly with NCE, a lot of new incentives and promos are coming from Microsoft that the platform automatically pass through to customers. But it's something for us as an indirect provider, we spend a lot of time making sure we're educating our resellers, and as part of the monthly account reviews, explaining to each of our resellers what the opportunity is, and making sure they're tapping into things, whether it's new customer ads in Microsoft 365, whether it's premium SKU upsells. And as Sarah says, with the move to NCE, it's moving to 100% rebate rather than the 60/40 split. I suspect that Microsoft will flip that back to a 60/40 split in the future. think that's probably more a case of technically they've not implemented the incentives engine in NCE to cope with 60-40 splits. And when they get around to fixing that in time for October this year, you'll certainly see. I suspect rebate and co-op split will come back in, because Microsoft likes to control and make sure that partners are spending that incentive to grow their Microsoft business. They're very uncomfortable with that being 100% rebate, because partners can go and use that money to go and grow a competitor's solution. So I know that's a lever of control Microsoft likes to have with the channel, to make sure the money they're providing do drive future Microsoft growth. With the new cloud partner program and the 6 solution areas, and getting a solutions partner status in each of those, I think what you're going to see, you read the words from Rodney and watch his presentation, Microsoft claim they're going to put more investment into the incentives for the partners who are earning them. But what I think you're going to see when you look at the detail of what it actually takes to become a solution, certified as a solution partner in one of those new solution areas, you're going to have fewer partners sharing the pot of incentives that Microsoft's providing. So while if you are eligible and earn the right to receive those incentives, you may be receiving more, I think there'll be fewer partners receiving those incentives, is my suspicion, as what's going to end up panning out in the coming years. And the Cloud Partner Program's got an 18-month rollout period. It starts in October this year. You're going to have a grandfathering of your gold and silver competencies for at least a year on that before you're fully into the new program. So that's complete supposition from my part. I think when I read the announcements on MCPP this week, incentives I think was particularly vague, or there was a real lack of detail about what's going to happen, and obviously it won't be until July 1st or 2nd when we find out for sure what the incentives program is that will be in place from October. And we know Microsoft will maintain core rebates or core incentives, but they do like to play with the levers around driving customer ads or driving premium SKU mixes. And Microsoft still has a really big push on driving more and more customers. So they'll always play around with some of those levers and incentives to help make sure the channel's focused on the behaviours and metrics that Microsoft themselves care about within their own business.
Now, I think that's really interesting as well, because I think I saw that they said they have over 400,000 partners worldwide as part of this. And we know that the majority of them are going to be those action pack customers. Let's be fair, they're not partners. They've grabbed an action pack. And this is interesting. It's an interesting state to think that actually we're going to have a smaller number of partners. And if Microsoft really is core to your business and you focus on those solution competencies, there will be a smaller number of people in those pots, for the incentives, that there might be more incentives for the partners who really can, focus and get qualified. Interesting. Well, guys, those are all the questions I have.
To add on to that, I think the new solution area is actually good from a differentiation perspective as well. Sarah mentioned she's got 5 gold competencies as a business. We've got 11 gold competencies and a couple of silvers, and they sort of get to the point where it's almost fairly meaningless. And everybody who's any good has got gold competencies. But I think with the bar getting higher on the new MCPP, it really will be a point of differentiation as to which partners have got the skills and capabilities to best meet customer needs and help them grow their businesses and solve their challenges.
That's really interesting. I think so. I have a question as well, which is, customers must see the gold and silver badges, but they don't really know what they mean. We know what they mean because we're in this space, and we understand what it means. How do we go and explain to them that this is the new solution competency, and actually this means that I'm a member of a new elite squadron of people that don't have these yet, and help a customer understand, those old gold competencies, no, they're last season, these are the new ones, and this is the type of business that you need to be looking for. Do you think Microsoft are going to be putting some promotion behind this to say, hey, this is the new wave of partners that you should be working with, and look out for these badges?
Absolutely. For me, that's absolutely part of Microsoft's role is to provide that air cover to explain what the new program means, what the new 6 solution areas are. And there's always been an element of the promotion of MPN and silver and gold competencies that's been about educating the end customers that they should be looking for partners who've gone and got that level of certified capability. So I think for me, Microsoft has got a big job on its hands to start to educate the end customer base around what this new cloud partner program means in terms of being able to pick the right partner. And I expect the partner selection tools and what have you that are on different Microsoft websites, those all get updated, and it's the ones who have got the advanced or the expert categorizations within the new 6 solution areas that will get the highest levels of promotion, and also access to other incentive programs that Microsoft have. Like if you have an Azure Advanced Specializations, you get access to a program called AMP today to help you go and run more customer workshops and proof of concepts with your customers. So I think that's going to be very much a case with the cloud partner program. They've got to go and do that education out to the end customer.
Well, Michael, you make a great point there about, customers finding Microsoft partners through the partner portal. But Sarah, do you think there's going to be any need for you as Digital Space to educate your clients and prospects around what these new partner competencies mean?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of kind of wanting to self-promote in terms of what you've achieved and why you would want to be accredited. I think actually if we go completely back to the start though, and how we just started this whole conversation with a change in education from CSP to NCE and license utilization, actually could this also be a really good time to again re-engage with your customers? We mentioned, do our customers know what gold is, what silver is, why, is it relevant to them? It could be a case again, we could step back as a reseller, reevaluate where we are, reevaluate our positioning, our customers, how we interact with them, our interface. So actually, yes, it's probably, more work, different work, a combined scenario of maybe, aligning our business strategy and where our skills lie with how we want to be portrayed and what we want to be known for. So, again, it could be a really good education piece, both, internally for, my sales team. They're going to have to, understand what that means. They're going to be questioned by their customers. I personally am not an account manager. I don't hold the personal relationships that they do. So it's understanding it in a meaningful way, isn't it? You can have a gold star and look wonderful, but actually if your support isn't up to scratch and they don't know what telephone number to contact you on and that sort of stuff, then it doesn't mean anything, does it?
No, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you both so much for just being so candid and sharing so much of yourselves in these questions, because I know this is a hot topic for the community. And look, thank you all for watching today's Partner Summit discussion. Don't forget that you can always keep up with what's happening by following the hashtag Powering Partners on social media. But that's it for today's discussion. Thank you so much to Sarah and to Michael. And from me, Scott Riley, thanks very much. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone.